Hello, I am Sam the Statman, coming at you with another video. Today I'm going to be comparing Ozzie Smith and Brooks Robinson to see who is better. This is another one of my comparison videos where I compare two different players, or actually sometimes it's more, but today it is going to be two different players to see who is better. And before we start the video, I would just like to say a few quick things. First, this video will not be a video to see who is the greatest defensive player of all time. These two players are probably the greatest defensive players of all time. However, I will also be taking into account their offensive stats and stuff, like their stolen bases, their offensive stats, all of that stuff. I will not just be focusing on their defense, so I will be talking about their defense, as it obviously is great, but I will not just be focusing on that. And another thing is I would like to thank renowned actress and podcaster Ellen Adair. She tweeted out one of my videos, and she liked them, she complimented it, and it really meant a lot to me. You guys should all go listen to her podcast. It's called Take Me Into the Ballgame. It is a podcast about baseball movies. I would like to be a guest host on Moneyball, but I think I am a bit too young. But you guys should all go check out that podcast. Just wanted to say those things. So, without further ado, let's get into it. First, let's take a look at Ozzie Smith. In his career, Ozzie Smith batted .262, .337, .328 with an 87 OPS plus. He had 2,460 hits, 28 homers. He stole 580 bases, had 239 total zone runs, which isn't the all-time highest. However, once you factor in positional adjustment, his defensive WAR is the highest, with 44.2 defensive WAR. In terms of overall WAR, he had 76.9. He was a 15-time All-Star, won 13 Gold Gloves, won a Silver Slugger Award, and won the NLCS MVP. Before I talk about Brooks Robinson, I would just like to mention something about Ozzie Smith's hitting. Now, Ozzie Smith's hitting obviously was not the best. Like I mentioned, only had an 87 OPS plus, had a slugging less than .330. His on base wasn't .340, and he wasn't a great hitter. However, if you compare it to other fantastic defensive players who weren't great hitters, like Bill Mazeroski or Mark Bellinger, you will find that Ozzie Smith does have better hitting stats than them. A lot of people think Ozzie Smith's hitting stats are just totally bad. And I actually forgot to mention something. Ozzie Smith also stole 580 bases. But back to what I'm talking about now. What I'm saying is that Ozzie Smith actually had okay hitting stats. They weren't fantastic, but they were pretty good. Well, they weren't pretty good, but they were mediocre. And some other great defensive players, like Mazeroski or other great defensive players, some of them really had terrible defense. That's why Mazeroski only has like 36 WAR, and Ozzie Smith has 76 WAR. It's because Ozzie Smith stole a lot of bases, yes, but was also an okay hitter, and his hitting did improve towards the later end of his career. And some people think his hitting was absolutely atrocious. It wasn't great, but it was okay. I just wanted to tell you guys that. Now let's take a look at Brooks Robinson. In his career, Brooks Robinson batted .267, .322, .401 with a 105 OPS plus. He had 2,848 hits, 268 homers, had 293 total zone runs, which is the record, but like I said, with positional adjustment, he only has 39.1 defensive WAR, which is still really good. It's one of the best all time. He had 78.4 WAR, won the MVP award, was an 18-time All-Star, won 16 Gold Gloves, won the World Series MVP, and won the All-Star MVP. Now it is time for me to make my decision. Which one of these two defensive wizards is the better player? Now, here's the thing. If you look at defense and stolen bases, I think Ozzie Smith is better. For defense, it's actually kind of close. Well, it's not incredibly close, but it is kind of close. 44.2 DWAR to 39.1. It's kind of close, but in the end, I think you have to say Ozzie Smith is a better defensive player than Brooks Robinson. And stolen bases, it's not even a tiny bit close. Ozzie Smith, like I mentioned, stole 580. Brooks Robinson stole less than 30, so that is obvious. However, in hitting stats, Brooks Robinson has the clear advantage. I talked about how Ozzie Smith's hitting stats were actually better than lots of people thought, and how his hitting stats were like mediocre, but Brooks Robinson's were much better. Like I said, 105 OPS plus for him compared to 87 for Ozzie. So here is what I'm going to have to base my decision off. Do I think that the gap between Brooks Robinson and Ozzie Smith's defense and stolen bases, like stolen base stats, do I think the gap between those two things is greater than the gap between Ozzie Smith and Brooks Robinson's hitting stats? And if the answer is, do I think the gap between Ozzie Smith and Brooks Robinson's defense and stolen bases is greater than hitting stats, Ozzie Smith will win, and vice versa, Brooks Robinson will win. Now here is what I think. I think that by the slightest margin, like ever, one of the slightest margins ever, probably the slightest margin ever on this channel, I think the gap between Brooks Robinson and Ozzie Smith's defense and stolen bases is just a bit larger than the gap between Ozzie Smith and Brooks Robinson's hitting stats. It is this close. But I think because that Ozzie Smith will win. It is this close. If we're just looking at it based on the difference between their hitting or defense stats, I think the gap between Brooks Robinson and Ozzie Smith's hitting stats is greater than the gap between their defensive stats. However, once you factor in stolen bases, I think you give Ozzie the slightest edge. So congratulations, Ozzie Smith. You are the winner. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys enjoy all of my comparison videos. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next video. Stay safe.